The baby wasn't breathing. 19 doctors stood around the hospital bed, and none of them knew what to do. I was 12 years old, sitting in the corner of that emergency room in Chicago, and I was the only one who saw what they missed. My name is Sophie. I lived in a group home on the South Side. I wasn't supposed to be in that hospital room at all, but that night changed everything. It changed me. It changed a billionaire's life, and it saved a baby boy that every single doctor had given up on. This is how it happened. Before we continue, please take a second and like this video, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Someone near you might be watching too. Share and tap the bell so you never miss a story from this channel. Don't be in a hurry. Watch till the end because the final twist will blow your mind. So, let's jump right in. It started 3 months earlier. I was living at Hope House, a group home for kids with nowhere else to go. 12 of us slept in bunk beds. We shared 2 bathrooms. The walls were thin and the food was never enough, but it was better than the streets. I kept to myself mostly. I read books from the library and stayed out of trouble. I had been at Hope House since I was 7. My mom died when I was 6. My dad, I never knew him. The system bounced me around until I landed there. The building was old. Paint peeled off the walls. The heating barely worked in winter. Sometimes the water ran brown before it cleared up. But Mrs. Lewis, the director, did her best. She was kind. She made sure we went to school. She made sure we had clean clothes, even if they didn't always fit right. I shared a room with 3 other girls. Katie was 14 and angry at the world. She picked fights with everyone. Melissa was 10 and cried every night for her mother. And there was Jade, who was 9 and didn't talk much. She just drew pictures all day long. I understood Jade. Sometimes it was easier to be quiet, to watch, to notice things without saying anything. Every Thursday, a van came to take some of us to volunteer at hospitals. It was part of a program to teach us responsibility. Most kids hated it. They said it was boring. They said sick people made them sad. I didn't mind. The hospital was quiet. People left me alone. I could sit and watch. That Thursday in October, we went to St. Catherine's Medical Center. It was one of the biggest hospitals in Chicago. Rich people went there. Famous people. People with money. The building was huge, all glass and steel. The floors were so shiny you could see your reflection. Everything smelled like cleaning products and something else. Something sterile and cold. I was assigned to the pediatric wing. My job was simple. Fold blankets. Organize toys. Stay quiet. Don't bother anyone. The supervisor was a nurse named Carol. She had gray hair and tired eyes. She showed me where everything was and then left me alone. That was fine with me. I did my work fast. I folded the blankets into perfect squares. I organized the toys by size and color. I wiped down the tables in the play area. Then I sat in a chair near the nurse's station and watched. I liked watching. I saw patterns. I noticed things, little details that others missed. I watched the nurses walk back and forth. Some moved fast, always in a hurry. Others moved slow, like they were tired of doing the same thing every day. I watched parents holding their sick children. Some looked scared. Others looked numb, like they had been scared for so long they didn't feel it anymore. I watched doctors making rounds. They talked in words I didn't understand. Medical words, big words. But I could tell from their faces whether the news was good or bad. That's when I first saw him. His name was Daniel Reed. He was a billionaire. Real estate, tech companies, investments. His face was on magazine covers. He owned half the buildings in downtown Chicago. But that day he didn't look powerful. He looked broken. He walked through the hallway with his wife, Grace. She was younger than him, beautiful, with long dark hair and perfect clothes. But her eyes were red from crying. Her makeup was smudged. She held onto Daniel's arm like she might fall if she let go. They moved fast, surrounded by assistants and security guards. People in suits talking on phones. People carrying folders and tablets. They looked important. They looked like they were used to fixing problems. But this problem, they couldn't fix. A nurse whispered to another near the station. I heard her say, "Their baby. He's in critical condition." The other nurse shook her head. "Poor thing." I didn't think much of it then. Rich people had problems too, I guessed. Money didn't make you immune to pain. I had learned that from books, from watching the world. But later that evening, everything changed. I was in the supply closet putting away the last of the blankets when I heard shouting. It came from down the hall, loud voices, running footsteps, alarms beeping. I stepped out of the closet and saw nurses running, doctors rushing, people moving with urgent purpose. I followed them. I shouldn't have. I was supposed to stay in my area. The pediatric wing was my assignment, nowhere else. But something pulled me forward. Something told me I needed to see what was happening. The emergency room doors swung open. Inside, I saw chaos. A baby lay on the bed. He was tiny, maybe 6 months old. His skin looked gray. His chest wasn't moving right. It rose and fell in short, desperate gasps. Around him stood 19 doctors. I counted them. 19. All in white coats, all moving fast, shouting orders, checking machines, injecting medicine. But nothing worked. I slipped inside and pressed myself against the wall near the door. No one noticed me. They were too focused on the baby. Their faces were tight with concentration, with fear, with the knowledge that they were losing. Daniel Reed stood in the far corner with his wife. Grace was sobbing. Her whole body shook. She covered her mouth with both hands, trying to hold in the screams. Daniel held her shoulders, but his face was stone. Cold, like he had already accepted what was coming. I watched the doctors. They tried everything. One held a tiny oxygen mask over the baby's face, squeezing the bag attached to it. Another pressed on the baby's chest with 2 fingers, counting compressions. A third checked the monitors, reading numbers that kept dropping. They moved like a machine. Each person had a job. Each person knew what to do. But it wasn't working. One doctor injected something into the baby's arm. Another adjusted the machines. A third tilted the baby's head back, trying to open the airway. Nothing changed. The baby's lips were turning blue. His tiny fingers were limp. The monitor beeped slower and slower. One doctor shook his head. Grace screamed. A raw, terrible sound that made my stomach twist. It was the sound of a mother watching her child die. A sound that didn't belong in this world. Daniel turned away. His hands were shaking. He pressed them against his face. I stared at the baby. Something felt wrong. Not just that he was dying. Something else. Something the doctors weren't seeing. I moved closer, slowly. One step, then another. No one stopped me. They didn't even see me. I looked at his face. His mouth was slightly open. His lips were blue. But there was something else. A strange darkness at the back of his throat. Not normal. Not right. I had seen that before. 2 years ago, at Hope House, a little boy named Kevin almost died. He was 5 years old. He was eating dinner, and suddenly he couldn't breathe. His face turned red, then purple. He grabbed at his throat. The staff panicked. They thought he was having a seizure. They called for help. But I saw something they didn't. I saw a strange shadow in his mouth when he gasped for air. I told Mrs. Lewis to check his throat. She looked at me like I was crazy, but she did it anyway. She used a flashlight and looked inside his mouth. And there it was. A piece of plastic from a broken toy, lodged deep in his throat. They pulled it out. Kevin survived. This baby had the same look, the same darkness, the same shadow that didn't belong. I stepped forward. "Check his throat," I said. No one heard me. They were too loud, too panicked. Machines beeping, people shouting, Grace crying. I said it louder. A nurse glanced at me. She frowned. Her face said, "Who is this kid?" she asked. Her voice was sharp. "Check his throat," I said again. Louder this time. My voice cracked. A doctor turned. His face was red and sweaty. His eyes were wild. "Please," I said. My hands were shaking. "Just look." They ignored me. They went back to working on the baby, trying the same things that weren't working, repeating the same steps, following the same procedures. But I knew there was something they were missing. Daniel Reed heard me. His head snapped toward me. Our eyes met across the room. He looked broken, desperate. But in that moment, something changed in his face. A flicker of hope, or maybe just curiosity. He asked. His voice cut through the noise. Everyone stopped. They looked at him, then at me. "There's something in his throat," I said. My voice was small, but I forced the words out. "I can see it. He's not choking on air. There's something blocking it." Grace looked at me. Her face was wet with tears. Hope flickered in her eyes. Desperate, raw hope. Daniel walked over. He moved fast. He stared at me, really looked at me, like he was trying to decide if I was crazy or if I might be right. Then he looked at the doctors. "Do what she says," he said. His voice was calm but firm, the voice of a man used to giving orders. The doctors hesitated. One of them, an older man with gray hair, said, "Sir, we already checked his airway." "Do it again," Daniel said. His voice didn't rise, but there was steel in it. Another doctor said, "Mr." "Then do it one more time," Daniel said. "For me." They looked at each other. Then, reluctantly, they did. One doctor grabbed a small light. He leaned over the baby and opened his mouth wider. He looked inside. His face was skeptical at first, then it changed. His eyes widened. "Wait," he said. Another doctor leaned in. A third joined them. They all stared into the baby's mouth. "There's an obstruction," the first doctor said. "Deep in the throat." They moved fast now, grabbed tools, long, thin instruments. They worked carefully, precisely. Everyone in the room held their breath. Slowly, carefully, they reached into the baby's throat and pulled something out. It was a small piece of soft rubber, torn and jagged on one end. It was from a bottle nipple. It had torn off and gotten lodged deep in the baby's throat, so deep that the machines couldn't detect it, so deep that the first airway check had missed it, but I saw it, because I was looking, because I remembered Kevin, because I paid attention. They cleared the airway, suctioned out the blockage, made sure nothing else was there. And then, it happened. The baby gasped. A real gasp. His chest moved, up and down. Color started returning to his face, pink spreading across gray. The monitor beeped faster. The numbers climbed, oxygen levels rising, heart rate stabilizing. Grace collapsed to her knees, sobbing. But now it was different. Now it was relief, joy, disbelief. Daniel stood frozen. His mouth was open. His eyes were wet. He stared at his son like he was seeing a miracle. The doctors moved quickly now. They adjusted the oxygen, checked vitals, made sure the baby was stable. Their faces showed shock, confusion, relief. But Daniel kept staring at me. He walked over slowly. He looked down at me. I was just a kid in old jeans and a donated sweater. My hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. I had dirt under my fingernails from cleaning the play area, but he looked at me like I was something important. "You saved him," he said quietly. His voice was thick with emotion. I didn't know what to say. I just shrugged. "No," Daniel said. He shook his head. "You saw what 19 doctors didn't see." Grace came over. She was still crying. She grabbed my hands and squeezed them. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you. Thank you." I felt uncomfortable. I didn't like attention. I didn't like people looking at me. But I nodded. The room erupted then. Doctors talked to each other, trying to figure out how they missed it. Nurses checked and rechecked everything. The baby Leo started crying. A real, healthy cry, the most beautiful sound in the world. But Daniel kept staring at me. He asked. He nodded slowly. His eyes searched my face. Hope House. Something changed in his expression. Understanding, sadness, respect. He knelt down in front of me, put himself at my eye level. "Thank you, Sophie," he said. His voice cracked. "You gave me back my son. I will never forget this." I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt tired and a little scared of all the attention. But I nodded again. Over the next few days, the story spread like wildfire. The hospital staff talked. Someone told the media. Soon reporters were everywhere. Cameras, microphones, questions. The headline read, "12-year-old girl saves billionaire's baby when 19 doctors couldn't." They came to Hope House, knocked on the door, wanted interviews, pictures, wanted to know everything about me. Mrs. Lewis tried to protect me. She said no to most of them, but some got through. They asked me questions I didn't know how to answer. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like Sophie, a kid who noticed something, that's all. But the world didn't see it that way. Daniel Reed came too. He arrived 3 days after it happened. A black car with tinted windows pulled up in front of Hope House. Kids pressed their faces against the windows to see. He walked in wearing a suit that probably cost more than the entire building. His shoes were shiny. His watch sparkled. He looked like he belonged in a different world. Mrs. Lewis was nervous. She kept apologizing for the state of the place, the peeling paint, the worn furniture, the smell of old carpet and boiled vegetables. Daniel didn't care. He barely looked at any of it. He asked to speak with me. We sat in the small office, just the two of us. Mrs. Lewis closed the door but stayed nearby. Daniel sat across from me. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept much, but his eyes were clear. "Sophie," he said, "I came here to thank you again." I waited. "I want to do something for you," he said. "You saved my son. I owe you everything. Tell me what you need." I thought about it. I thought about the bunk bed I slept in, the thin blankets that didn't keep me warm, the way we ran out of hot water if you weren't one of the first to shower, the way dinner was always the same, rice and beans, sometimes chicken if we were lucky. I thought about Katie and her anger, Melissa and her tears, Jade and her silence. "I don't need anything," I said slowly. "But the other kids here do. They need better beds, better food, maybe some new books." Daniel smiled. It was the first real smile I had seen from him. It changed his whole face. "Done," he said. "But I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to make sure you have a future. A real one. You're special, Sophie. You see things others don't. That's a gift." I didn't understand what he meant then. I just nodded. Daniel said, "Why did you speak up? Most people wouldn't. Most people would have stayed quiet, especially a kid in a room full of adults." I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Because I saw something that mattered," I said finally. "And if I didn't say anything, the baby would die." Daniel's eyes got wet again. He nodded slowly. "You're brave, Sophie." I didn't feel brave. I felt like I just did what anyone would do. But I didn't say that. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. Daniel paid for Hope House to be completely renovated. New beds for everyone. New furniture. A new kitchen with modern appliances. He hired more staff, better staff, people who actually cared about kids. He set up a scholarship fund for every kid who lived there. Money for college, money for trade school, money for whatever future they wanted. The whole place transformed. Kids who used to be sad started smiling. Katie stopped picking fights. Melissa cried less. Jade started talking a little. Mrs. Lewis cried happy tears every day. She said it was a miracle. But Daniel did something else, something bigger. He offered to become my legal guardian. When Mrs. Lewis told me, I didn't know what to say. I barely knew him. He was rich. He lived in a different world. Why would he want me? He says you remind him of himself when he was young, Mrs. Lewis said. He grew up poor too, fought his way up. He sees something in you, Sophie. I didn't know if I wanted to leave Hope House. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. The only home I had known for 5 years. But Mrs. Lewis said it was a good opportunity. A chance for a real family. A chance for a different life. So I said yes. Partly because I was curious. Partly because I was scared to say no. And partly because some small part of me wanted to know what it felt like to have a family. Moving into Daniel Reed's house felt like stepping into a dream. Or maybe a movie. It didn't feel real. The house was in Lincoln Park, right on the lake. It was huge, not just big. Huge. 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a kitchen bigger than the entire first floor of Hope House, a backyard with real grass and flowers, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with more books than I could read in a lifetime. My room was on the 2nd floor. It had a real bed with a thick mattress and soft pillows. A desk by the window where I could look out at the lake. A closet bigger than the room I used to share with 3 other girls. Grace showed me around. She was gentle, patient. She showed me how everything worked. The TV, the shower, the fancy coffee machine in the kitchen that I wasn't supposed to touch, but she said I could if I wanted to learn. She bought me new clothes, took me shopping in stores I had only walked past before, stores with names I couldn't pronounce. She let me pick what I liked. Didn't force me to wear things that felt wrong. Leo, the baby, was 6 months old now. He smiled when he saw me, reached his little hands toward me. Grace said he remembered me, that babies know who saves them. I didn't know if that was true, but it felt nice to think about. At first, I felt out of place. I didn't belong there. I was just a kid from a group home. I didn't know how to talk to rich people. Didn't know which fork to use at dinner. Didn't know how to act in a house where everything was clean and perfect. But slowly, I started to adjust. Started to feel like maybe I could belong. Maybe this could be real. Grace treated me like I was her own daughter. She asked about my day, helped me with homework, sat with me when I couldn't sleep. Daniel was gone a lot. Business trips, he said. Meetings, deals to close. But when he was home, he made time for me. We'd sit in the library and talk. He asked me questions about books I was reading, about what I wanted to do when I grew up, about how I saw the world. He said I was smart, that I had a gift, that I should never hide it. I thought that was the end of the story, a happy ending. Poor orphan girl saves billionaire's baby and gets adopted into a rich family, lives happily ever after. But I was wrong. 3 months after I moved in, I started noticing things, little things that didn't add up. Daniel was gone more than he was home, sometimes for days at a time. Grace said it was just business, that he was a busy man. But something felt off. Grace seemed distant. She still smiled at me, still helped me with things, but there was something in her eyes. Something sad. Something heavy. Late at night, I heard them arguing. Their voices were muffled through the walls, but I could hear the anger, the frustration. One night, I couldn't sleep. I got up to get water. The house was dark and quiet. As I walked past Daniel's office, I heard his voice inside. I stopped. I shouldn't have listened. I knew that. But something made me stay. Daniel was on the phone. His voice was low and tense. "I can't keep doing this," he said. Silence. He was listening to whoever was on the other end. "I know what I said, but things are different now." More silence. "No, I won't do that. Not to her." My heart started beating faster. Who was he talking about? "She saved my son's life," Daniel said. His voice cracked. "She saved Leo, and you want me to what?" My blood ran cold. Was he talking about me? "No," Daniel said firmly. "I'm done. I'm pulling out. I don't care what it costs me. I don't care about the money." He hung up. I stood frozen in the hallway. My hands were shaking. My mind was racing. What was he talking about? Who was he talking to? And why did it sound like I was part of something I didn't understand? I went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying his words over and over, trying to make sense of them. But nothing made sense. The next morning, I tried to act normal, but I couldn't stop watching Daniel. Every time he looked at me, I wondered what he was thinking, what he was hiding. Grace seemed tense, too. She kept looking at Daniel with this expression I couldn't read. Hurt, anger, confusion, all mixed together. That afternoon, a man came to the house. He wore an expensive suit and dark sunglasses, even though it wasn't sunny. He and Daniel went into the office and closed the door. I was in the kitchen doing homework, but I could hear their voices. Not the words, just the tone. Angry, harsh. They talked for over an hour. When the man left, he slammed the door. Daniel came out looking exhausted. His tie was loose. His face was pale. I wanted to ask him what was going on, but I didn't. I was scared of what he might say, or worse, scared that he wouldn't tell me the truth. That night, everything came crashing down. I was in my room reading when I heard shouting. It came from downstairs, loud, angry, painful. I ran to the top of the stairs and listened. It was Grace. She was yelling at Daniel. Her voice was raw with emotion. She screamed. "Grace, please," Daniel said. His voice was tired. Grace shouted, "Explain that you used that girl, that you brought her into our home for your own selfish reasons?" I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Used me? What did that mean? "That's not true," Daniel said. Grace's voice broke. "Tell me the truth." There was a long, heavy silence. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Then Daniel spoke. His voice was quiet, defeated. "When Leo was born, he was sick. You know that. The doctor said he might not survive, that we should prepare for the worst." "I know all that," Grace said. Another pause. "I made a deal," Daniel said finally. Grace whispered, "There's a company, Neuropath. They do research on cognitive abilities, brain function. They were developing a new diagnostic system, using AI and human intuition together. They needed test subjects." My hands gripped the railing. I felt dizzy. "They had a treatment for Leo," Daniel continued. "Experimental, risky, but it could save him. They said they'd give it to us. Save our son." Grace's voice was barely audible. "Access to someone special," Daniel said. "Someone with hyper-intuitive perception, the ability to see patterns and details that others miss." I couldn't breathe. "And you found Sophie," Grace said. "I didn't find her," Daniel said. "She found us. She saved Leo on her own. I didn't plan that. But after she did, after I saw what she could do, I knew." "So you brought her here," Grace said. "You made her think she was part of our family. You gave her hope, made her trust you." "It wasn't like that," Daniel said quickly. "At first, yes, that was the plan. But then I got to know her. I saw who she really was, A brave, smart, incredible kid who deserved better than what life gave her. Grace asked. I told them no, Daniel said. I pulled out of the deal. I said they can't have her. Grace's voice was sharp with disbelief. No, Daniel admitted. They're threatening me. Said they'll ruin me. Take everything, but I don't care. Sophie is more important than any deal, any money. Grace didn't respond. The silence stretched out, heavy and painful. I stood at the top of the stairs, tears streaming down my face. My whole body was shaking. I had been part of a deal, a transaction. Daniel didn't bring me here because he cared about me. He did it because he needed something from me. Everything was a lie. I turned and ran back to my room, locked the door, crawled into bed and cried until I couldn't cry anymore. Everything I thought was real wasn't real. The family, the home, the feeling of belonging. All of it was built on a lie. I was just a thing to them, something useful, something they could use. The next morning I packed my things. I didn't have much. Some clothes Grace had bought me, some books, my old backpack from Hope House. I walked downstairs. Daniel was in the kitchen making coffee. He saw me with my bag and his face went white. Sophie, he said. He put down the mug and walked toward me. I'm leaving, I said. My voice was flat, empty. No, Daniel said. Please, don't do this. You already did, I said. His face went even paler. I heard what I needed to hear, I said. I was part of a deal. You brought me here because you needed something from me. That's not true, Daniel said. He walked closer. His eyes were desperate. It started that way. I won't lie about that. But it's not like that anymore. You're not part of any deal. I don't believe you, I said. My voice was shaking now. The numbness was wearing off, replaced by anger. You lied to me. You made me think I mattered. You do matter, Daniel said. His voice cracked. You matter more than anything. That's why I ended the deal. That's why I told them no. You didn't choose me, I said. You just stopped using me. Sophie. No, I said. I shook my head. You don't get to do this. You don't get to make me feel bad for leaving. You lied. You used me. Grace walked into the room. She looked at me with sad eyes. Her face was puffy like she'd been crying too. Sophie, she said gently, I know you're hurt. You have every right to be. But Daniel is telling the truth. He ended the deal. He lost millions because of it. I don't care about the money, I said. My voice rose. I care that I was lied to. It's not fake, Daniel said. He took another step toward me. Not anymore. Maybe it started wrong. Maybe I made terrible choices. But what we have now is real. You're my daughter, Grace's daughter, Leo's big sister. I looked at him, then at Grace, then at the house around me, the expensive furniture, the clean floors, the life that felt too good to be true. Because it was too good to be true. I can't stay here, I said. My voice was quieter now. Tired. Please, Daniel said. I picked up my bag and walked to the door. Grace asked. Her voice was soft, worried. Back to Hope House, I said. This is your home now, Daniel said. Please, Sophie. I put my hand on the door handle. Part of me wanted to stay. Part of me wanted to believe him, but I couldn't. Not after what I heard. You made me think I mattered because of who I was, I said without turning around. But I only mattered because of what I could do for you. That's not family. I opened the door. Wait, Daniel said. His voice was desperate now. You're right. I brought you here for the wrong reasons. I made a deal that I should never have made. I used you and that was wrong. I stopped but didn't turn around. Daniel continued. You changed me. You showed me what actually matters. Not money, not deals, not protecting my interests. You showed me what it means to see what's right in front of you and have the courage to act on it. You saved my son because it was the right thing to do. You didn't ask for anything. His voice broke. And even if you leave, he said, even if you never forgive me, I want you to know something. You're not just a smart kid who sees things. You're brave. You're strong. You're honest in a way most people never are. And you deserve everything good in this world. I'm sorry I didn't see that from the beginning. I'm sorry I let greed and fear make me do something terrible. But I see it now. I see you. I stood there, my hand on the door, tears running down my face. I wanted to leave. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to go back to Hope House where things were simple, where I didn't have to wonder if people cared about me or just wanted something from me. But I couldn't move. Because deep down I knew he was telling the truth. I could hear it in his voice. The regret, the shame, the desperate hope that I might give him another chance. I turned around slowly. Daniel was crying, actually crying, tears running down his face. Grace stood next to him, her hand on his arm. If I stay, I said slowly, things have to change. No more lies, no more secrets. Daniel nodded quickly. I promise. And I want to know everything, I said, about this company, about what they wanted, about what you agreed to. You'll have it, Daniel said. And if I decide I still want to leave after that, I said, you let me go. No guilt, no pressure. Deal, Daniel said. I put my bag down, slowly, like I might pick it back up at any moment. Grace smiled through her tears. Thank you, she whispered. I didn't smile back. I wasn't ready for that yet. But I stayed. Over the next few days, Daniel kept his promise. He told me everything. The company was called Neuropath. They studied rare cognitive abilities, things like photographic memory, perfect pitch, and what they called hyper-intuitive perception, the ability to notice tiny details and patterns that others missed, to see things that shouldn't be visible. They believed I had it. The way I noticed the blockage in Leo's throat when 19 doctors didn't, the way I saw patterns in things, the way I could watch someone and know if they were lying or scared or hiding something. They wanted to study me, run tests, map my brain activity, use what they learned to develop better diagnostic AI, systems that could catch what human doctors missed. It wasn't evil, exactly. They weren't trying to hurt me, but they wanted to treat me like a lab rat, a puzzle to solve, a tool to use. Daniel had agreed to it because they promised to save Leo. They had an experimental treatment, something that could fix the heart defect Leo was born with. Without it, Leo would have died within weeks. They gave Daniel the treatment. It worked. Leo lived. But the price was me. Daniel had to find someone with my ability and give Neuropath access to them. To me. So he brought me into his home, made me comfortable, made me trust him, so he could hand me over when the time came. But I couldn't do it, Daniel said. We were sitting in his office, just the two of us. I got to know you. I saw how you looked at the world, how you cared about people, how you noticed everything but never used it to hurt anyone. So you said no, I said. I said no, Daniel confirmed. I told them the deal was off, that they saved my son, but I wouldn't give them you. And they didn't like that, I said. They threatened to sue me, to ruin me, to take everything I've built, Daniel said. But I didn't care. I still don't. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me was still angry, still hurt. But another part of me understood. He made a terrible choice when his son was dying, a choice born out of fear and desperation. But when he realized what he'd done, he tried to make it right. That had to mean something. There's something else you should know, Daniel said. His face was serious. The night Leo almost died, the rubber piece in his throat. My stomach dropped. Someone tampered with his bottle, Daniel said. The rubber was deliberately cut. I whispered. My business partner. Victor Crane, Daniel said. His jaw was tight. He wanted me out of the company, wanted control. He knew that if something happened to Leo, I'd fall apart. I'd be too broken to fight him. I felt sick. He did, Daniel said, and he almost succeeded, but you stopped him. You saved Leo. And when I found out what Victor did, I went to the police. He's been arrested. The evidence was clear. I sat back in my chair. My head was spinning. So the deal you made with Neuropath? I said slowly. And Victor trying to kill Leo. Completely separate, Daniel said. Victor didn't know about Neuropath, and Neuropath had nothing to do with Victor's plan. But both situations taught me something. I asked. People, Daniel said simply. The people you love. The people who matter. You, Grace, Leo, family. Real family. Not deals, not transactions, not business arrangements. I thought about that. Really thought about it. For the first time in days, I felt something other than anger and hurt. I felt like maybe, just maybe, this could work. I'm still mad at you, I said. I know, Daniel said. And I don't know if I can trust you again, I said. I understand, Daniel said. But I'm going to earn it back. I nodded slowly. That was the turning point. The moment things started to heal. It didn't happen overnight. Trust doesn't work that way. But slowly, day by day, we rebuilt it. Daniel showed me the legal papers, the contract he'd signed with Neuropath, the termination agreement where he pulled out, the financial statements showing how much it cost him. Millions. He'd lost millions walking away from that deal. For me. He also showed me the evidence against Victor, the police reports, the testimony, the proof that Victor had deliberately tried to hurt Leo. It was all real. Daniel wasn't lying anymore. Grace helped too. She spent time with me, talking, listening, never pushing me to feel a certain way, just being there. And Leo. Leo didn't know about any of the complicated adult stuff. He just knew that Sophie was his big sister, that I made him laugh, that I played with him and read him stories and kept him safe. His love was simple, pure, uncomplicated by deals and lies and money. That helped more than anything. Weeks passed, then months. Life moved forward. I went to school, a good school, made friends, learned things, felt normal for the first time in my life. I still visited Hope House. I brought supplies, books, games. I talked to the younger kids, told them that things could get better, that sometimes, even when life was hard, good things could happen. They looked at me like I was proof of that. The girl from their group home who now lived in a mansion, who had a family. I tried not to think about it that way, because I knew the truth. I didn't have a family because I got lucky. I had a family because I spoke up when it mattered, because I saw what needed to be seen, because I acted. That was my real power. Not some special brain ability. Just the courage to pay attention and do something about it. Daniel's business recovered, slowly. Some partnerships came back, some stayed broken, but he didn't seem to care. He worked less, spent more time at home, more time with Grace and Leo, more time with me. We'd sit in the library and talk about books, about life, about the choices people make. He told me about growing up poor, about clawing his way out, about the mistakes he made along the way. I told him about Hope House, about watching my mom die, about learning to stay quiet and invisible. We understood each other in a way that felt real. Grace started teaching me to cook, real cooking, not just boiling pasta. We'd spend Saturday mornings in the kitchen making complicated dishes, laughing when they didn't turn out right. Leo learned to walk. His first steps were toward me. I caught him when he stumbled. His version of Sophie. My heart melted. This was family. Messy, complicated, built on mistakes and forgiveness, but real. A year passed, then another. I grew, changed, became someone different from the quiet girl who sat in corners and watched. I was still observant, still noticed things others missed. But now I used that ability differently. I helped people, spoke up when something was wrong, didn't stay silent anymore. I decided I wanted to be a doctor, not because of Leo, not because of that night in the hospital, but because I understood something important. The most powerful thing you can do is see what others miss and have the courage to act on it. That's what doctors do at their best. They see the problem. They act. They save lives. Daniel supported the decision completely. Grace cried happy tears. Leo didn't really understand, but he gave me a hug anyway. I studied hard, got good grades, applied to colleges, got accepted to several. The day I got my acceptance letter to Northwestern, Daniel threw a party. Not a huge one, just family, and Mrs. Lewis from Hope House, and a few of the kids I grew up with. Katie was there. She was 19 now, working as a mechanic. Still a little rough around the edges, but happy. Melissa came too. She was 16, quiet still, but not crying anymore. She wanted to be a teacher. She said I inspired her. Jade didn't come. She'd moved to California to study art, but she sent me a painting. It was of Hope House, but the windows were lit up warm and bright, like home. I hung it in my room. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the back porch with Daniel. The lake was dark and quiet, stars reflected on the water. "I'm proud of you," Daniel said. "Thank you," I said. "For everything, for giving me a chance, for fighting for me." "Thank you for forgiving me," Daniel said, "for seeing that people can change." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. I said finally. "That night in the hospital," I said, "when you told the doctors to listen to me, why did you do it? I was just a kid. You didn't know me." Daniel thought about it for a long moment. "Because I saw something in your eyes," he said. "You weren't guessing. You weren't hoping. You knew." I smiled. That made sense. "Plus," Daniel added with a small smile, "I was desperate. My son was dying." "I'm glad you did," I said. "Me too," Daniel said softly. We sat there until late into the night. Just being. Just existing in the quiet understanding that we'd all survived something hard, something painful, and we'd come out the other side changed but whole. That's the thing about families, real families. They're not perfect. They make mistakes. They hurt each other sometimes, but they also fight for each other. They forgive. They grow. We were a family, built on complicated foundations, but family nonetheless. Years later, I'm in medical school now, top of my class. Not because I'm smarter than everyone else, but because I care, because I pay attention, because I see what matters. Leo is 7. He's smart, curious. He asks a million questions. And every single day he tells me I'm the best big sister in the world. Grace and Daniel are still together, still working on their marriage, still choosing each other every day. And me? I'm Sophie. Still the girl who watches, who notices, who speaks up when something needs to be said. But now I know something I didn't know back then. Your voice matters. Your observations matter. Your courage to act matters. It doesn't matter if you're 12 years old in a room full of experts. It doesn't matter if you're poor or forgotten or just a kid no one expects anything from. If you see something that needs to be said, say it. If you see something that needs to be done, do it. Because sometimes that one moment of courage can change everything. It changed a baby's life. It changed a family. It changed me. And every single day, I try to remember that. To be brave enough to speak, to see what matters, to act. That's the real story. Not that a poor orphan got lucky and found a rich family, but that a girl paid attention, spoke up, and saved a life. And in doing so, saved herself. That's what matters. That's what I carry with me. And that's what I hope to pass on to others. The understanding that you don't need to be powerful or rich or important to make a difference. You just need to see what's true and have the courage to act on it. That's enough. That's everything. And it all started that night in Chicago, when 19 doctors couldn't save a baby, and one 12-year-old girl did the unthinkable. She spoke up, and everything changed. Dear friend, what you just saw is only a piece of the bigger story. In the next video, a twist no one saw coming will be revealed. Make sure you're here for it. I'd love to hear what you would have done in this situation. Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment. Thanks so much for watching. Show some love by liking, subscribing, and sharing this with someone who needs to see it.